between the wedge tail flying in front of us and its Boeing predecessor in the airborne early warning and control role, the E3 Sentry. We've got one from the French Air and Space Force, an E3F on static display here. It's a much lower drag configuration on the wedge tail compared with the famous rotodome on top of the E3.
Yes, that's how technology has developed. If you go back even further to the Shackleton, that had a pulse radar, which was slung on the front, slightly underneath the nose of what is very, very similar to the Lancaster, which is taxiing across the opposite side of the airfield right now. Indeed, it was a Lancaster airframe that had been developed and modified over the years. But then when the E3 came in, it was a physical radar that is physically turning. And whilst it produces sufficient lift to offset the extra weight, it nevertheless does cause some drag to the aircraft. Not that drag is counterproductive to the speed of the aircraft, because it is still limited to about 0.8 Mach, but with that extra drag, it certainly does reduce the endurance.
Boeing is the successful bidder in the year 2000. 6 aircraft were built by Boeing at its plants Renton, Washington, as 737-700s modified into E-7As for the Australians. The first 2 were converted in the US, the other 4 at Boeing's facility at
the Lancaster will serve one of the engines has a technical issue which pulled over back its title. But after a significant amount of work by the Battle River program, we now have it here at Peterson. we head towards the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. He passed away on St Patrick's Day in his native Dublin. The pivotal moments of World War II, later become known as the Battle of Britain, serving on 85 Corps. Primarily arrived there to Essex, and by the end of 1914, he had claimed kills on I-111 and 107. But these were desperate times, and things were looking bleak as Germany prepared for invasion. But then Flying Officer Hemingway was in the thick of all of the area onslaught, and somehow survived 2 forced landings and was shot down 3 times, with the final occasion as him acting as officer commanding a 43 Squadron in a Spitfire over Italy in 1945. Reaching the prestigious rank of Group Captain. Group Captain Paddy Hemingway, a remarkable man, a hero in the truest sense. God bless you, sir. Thank you for your service. And from RIAT 2025, we salute you.
Display as the RAF Typhoon gets ready to get airborne, ready for its part in the programme before the Lancaster lands back on. We turn back to the present-day Royal Air Force and an aircraft we saw flying a little while ago, the Boeing Poseidon. Let's find out a little bit more about it.
We are Lockheed Martin.
And we ensure those we serve always stay
ahead of ready.
Now, there aren't many air shows nowadays where you get to see the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Lancaster operating from the venue. RAF Fairford is one of the few, and it's doing so now, and I'm sure providing some very nice moments for the viewers of the live stream on Plains TV. If you're watching that way, hope you're having a good afternoon. They're broadcasting the flying display live. You can watch it back later on their streaming service at watch.plainstv.com. They'll also release a feature-length highlights programme with in-cockpit views, behind-the-scenes material and so forth. If you subscribe, you get their back catalogue of highlights, including air tattoos going back more than 30 years. So watch.plainstv.com is where you need to go to find out more. Well, as the RAF